The plan was to make a big drawing. Around the time that I started this project, I'd been thinking that I wanted to do more traditional pieces. I'd been playing around a lot with charcoal, and it got me thinking, why don't I make a big charcoal piece? At the time though, I didn't have any big pieces of charcoal paper, and the paper I did have, I just didn't think was big enough for what I wanted to do. Which then made me have the thought, why don't I make a triptych? I decided to create 3 pieces that together would make one big piece. Now that I knew what I wanted to make, I just had to start drawing. I usually start my ideation process by sketching and thumbnailing out ideas until something jumps out at me. Eventually, I was able to come up with this thumbnail. And then, with a little bit of refining, I was able to make it this thumbnail. After having a thumbnail picked out, I decided to refine the drawing even more. I wanted to have as clear a map as possible before transferring everything over to charcoal paper. And then, after some time, I was able to create this drawing. And now, with the sketching and ideation process out of the way, it was time to start making the piece. I began by projecting my drawing onto the charcoal paper, and then I used vine charcoal to create the underdrawing. I used vine charcoal because it's thinner than most charcoal, and it's good to use when you first start drawing a piece. It's easier to erase, and it blends in fairly well. Then once I made sure the drawing was looking good and everything was where it needed to be, I used compressed charcoal to start tracing out the areas I wanted to start rendering. On the first pass of rendering, I would always make sure to start from the top of the piece and work my way down to the bottom, rendering section by section. This would ensure that I didn't accidentally smudge any of my work. Then, I would do an overall pass of the piece, adding details and cleaning up any messy areas. I did this process 3 times. At the time, I didn't really have a way to create all 3 pieces at the same time, so I created each piece individually, starting with the first, then going to the second, and then the third. This presented a few challenges, mainly when I was tracing the pieces and trying to make sure that each piece lined up correctly at the seams. After creating the third piece, it was time to look at all 3 pieces collectively, clean up any inconsistencies, and finish the Triptych series. This is where creating all 3 pieces separately presented the biggest challenge. I was finally at the end of the project, and I realized that the second and the third piece were way better than the first. This happened because in the 5 months time that it took me to create all 3 pieces, I had gotten better as an artist, and thus, the pieces got better. There was a 5-month gap in technique and skill between the first piece and the third piece. To fix this, I decided to use spray fixative and white charcoal to bring the first piece up to the same standard as the second and third. After fixing up the first piece, all that was left was to clean up a few areas on the second and third. Again, I used spray fixative and a bit of white charcoal to quickly make those corrections. And then, just like that, after 5 months of work, the Triptych series was done. It always feels really good to finish a piece like this. I think the longer that I spend on a project, the better I feel when it's complete. I think that feeling of accomplishment that you get scales with the more time and effort that you put into something. I don't really make pieces like this very often. A lot of the art that I make is for work and it's digital. So it feels really good to branch out and make something that's tangible. It feels a little more personal. In the middle of the project, I also created this YouTube channel. I started the channel by documenting this project through a weekly vlog series. If you're interested in seeing that, I'll set up a link somewhere over here. Each episode covers a different part in my process, and I go a little bit more in depth into the different issues that come up while I'm creating these pieces. And that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day. Like the video if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.